All right, Carter. Yeah. Hello. This is the Z Lloyd Podcast. I'm teZa. This is Carter. Hello. And today's a beautiful day where we are. I hope it's a beautiful day wherever you are. There's a lot going on in this world. And so we try to focus on the spiritual of life. But hard things are happening that we can't be in denial about. There are some real hard things happening. And the world is nervous. The world is nervous. People are nervous.
So what's relevant when there are hard things going on, and what can you do to be part of the situation and not deny what's happening and somehow become a positive aspect, helping the situation be less ugly and less cruel and less violent and more and to do what is the right thing. Sometimes the right thing, I guess, is to fight. Obviously.
First of all, for me, whenever there's conflict and negative things going on, and this is in the extreme because there's bombs being dropped around the world, and so I just go into prayer. I really believe in sending prayer and sending positive energy.
As long as they're not sending the bomb on you.
Well, yeah, but it's just the first thing. It's my go-to. I mean, I'm not running to the recruitment office and signing up to be, a jet pilot or anything.
Well, what are people doing in the bomb shelters? Praying.
They're praying like crazy.
You can bet they're praying. Those suckers, they're praying. So it is the thing to do. Go to prayer.
Well, prayer is powerful.
No matter how close you are.
Well, it's better than just being worried, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's better than just sitting around and fretting and finger pointing and being scared. And prayer is comforting. Prayer feels like it's real energy. I mean, I do it visually a lot. I don't do it with words so much. I just create a picture of the situation, and in this case, it's pretty much worldwide, and I send healing and loving energy to it. But meanwhile, we do have the reality that things are escalating, and what do we do about that as individuals who have dedicated our lives to having this experience of spirit being the main focus of our lives? So what do you do, Carter, during your time like this?
I think that we try to get close to God and however we can through meditation and through prayer, and that it can't be wrong. It can't be anything. It can't be hurting anything. That's the first thing is.
What do you mean? Bombs hurt. What do you mean?
No, prayer doesn't hurt.
Prayer.
I'm saying what we can do. Unless you're holding the bomb lever, there's not a damn thing you can do about the bomb. It's happening in some other part of the world. There's nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing we can do. Nothing.
So the question is, what can you do in the situation to somehow reach out to that bombing place and help it be more true or more better or more real or more whatever? And it's not necessarily more kind, but it should always be more kind, and the whole thing should always be thinking about the other people and be more kind. So what can you do? And my answer is that that's what you're doing. I'm trying to get as close to the God and the higher forces as we can, so that we can think positively about it, send positive vibes. That can't be wrong. There can't be anything wrong with that. So the first thing is that can't be anything. Even if it doesn't work, it's not hurting anything. So first of all, do no harm. And
do no harm.
Yeah, and then
do no harm to yourself. Do no harm to others.
Yeah.
But also, a lot of people are having not just anxiety, but anger and feeling like this is the wrong thing. So we're almost thrown back into the same situation we had before the election, where there's sides. I mean, it's so divisive in our country. I don't know if it's that divisive everywhere, but I mean, we can't just say, gee, you know, I'm glad the president is in charge. I'm glad the president is a sane, reasonable, logical guy. A lot of people can't say that. But then there's other people who are saying, well, I'm glad he had the balls to do what he did. I mean, there's people on all sides who, and it doesn't matter what they say. I'm just speaking for myself. I feel that it is what it is. I mean, I didn't partake in that decision. I'm not a diplomat. I'm not a government official. I am a human being, and it hurts that we are getting so close to aggression worldwide. So what do I do? You know, not thinking about politics, not thinking about anybody else's argument or rallying, but for me to accept the fact that it has happened, I have to stay hopeful and stay in a state of peace so that I can function properly if it escalates, right?
Yeah, there's higher forces at work than you. And it doesn't really, in the scheme of things, in one way, it doesn't matter at all what you think. But in another way, it does matter what you think, because you're adding to the whole
Collective,
thinking of it,
the collective
thinking about
unconscious
it
of
that's
the
happening.
world.
So that's important. And it's also important that no matter where you stand and what you think about it, that you be firm and strong in your conviction. And no matter what your conviction it is, I think we all have an obligation to stand strong with what we think, and also be open to discussing things and maybe learning something we hadn't known before, not be rigid. Mm-hmm. But the thing that never helps anybody is if we're not, I mean, we could be angry, I suppose, for a short period of time, but anger is just going to hurt you, and hatred to someone else and hating them, we know that's not good. That's wrong. So you right off the bat, that's wrong. So one of our obligations is to not run around hating people. We're loving people. Let them think and be who they are. Mm-hmm. They have a right to think who they think, just like you and me do. And whatever it is that they think, and they're strong in their conviction, we don't have to talk about it. We can be friends. Or we can talk about it if we want to and be open, just so long as it's not ugly and insulting and mean. And so what we can bring to it is our thinking about it, our stance about it, and our strength and resilience in standing up and doing what the right thing is. Because sometimes, because you were talking about earlier about the Bhagavad Gita. Well, nobody knows what the Bhagavad Gita is in this country, including
unless
me.
They happen to
but
be
you do.
A yogi
and the story about it, yeah, you summed it up real quick. You said the Bhagavad Gita is a story about a war, and it was about the fact that you have to stand up and fight against evil. It's our obligation to do that. So if that's the case, then if whatever's going on in the whatever we think about it, as long as we stand up for what the right thing is, then that's always right. And we could be wrong about it.
Yeah, but let me just interject a moment here. It gets complicated because just like a person's viewpoint about what beauty is, everybody's got a different opinion about what evil is. And I've talked to many people, and I've heard many people not describe evil the way I would. You know, in this particular situation about the bombs that were dropped and who is the enemy and was it necessary? I mean, you know, that is almost like it's as divisive as people are in a two-party system here. You know, about the Israelis versus the Palestinians I'm talking about. I mean, there are people who are pro this and pro that and against that and against that. So how can we make it so that we can all respect each other's differences, but yet not have it go to the place where everybody's killing each other?
Well, that's what happened in the American Civil War. Same situation, same hot topic, slavery, I guess, and other things, but slavery.
Mostly slavery, the Civil War.
And so there was we killed each other all over. We all took stances and killed each other over it.
Right. That's how we had to resolve that.
And that's what's happening right now. We're taking people are choosing sides and standing up, but the thing about the people in the Civil War, would you say that any soldier on either side was out of line. I mean, I guess you could say, well, all the Confederates were pro-slavery, so they were out of line. But I don't think that's true. There was other things besides slavery going on. There was other things happening. So the answer is no.
It was more than just slavery for like a Confederate soldier.
Yeah.
It was a lifestyle.
Right. Everybody's standing up.
It was their lifestyle.
And they're standing up for what they think. So is that wrong? No.
No,
it's
and that's what's happening today.
Yeah, well, people have a right to their opinion.
And not only lifestyle, but religion. And where they choose to live, because this is getting to be a crowded planet.
Well, as long as we don't go in and murder and kill people.
Well, that's what's happening. I mean, that's
right.
That's the whole thing that we're trying to talk about today. How can we, as observers, we're not diplomats, we're not soldiers, we're watching this from a distance. How can we maintain a connection to our divinity, to our sacred place, to our soul, to this being a spiritual life? How can we maintain that with this killing going on, with this conflict? And it's whether it escalates or de-escalates, it's a matter of one day at a time. One minute it looks like it's working out, the next minute it's not. So it's very tenuous, right? It is very tenuous.
It's tenuous, for sure.
So how do you do it? You go first, and then I'll say how I do it.
You ask the question. You go first. It's a deep question. It's not something you can just have a flippant answer to.
No, not at all. That's why we're talking about it. It's not you don't want to have a flippant answer. So when there's something really deep going on, okay, I'm going to use an analogy. I'm going to use, like, let's say in my own life, that I have been given a really horrendous diagnosis, that I have a disease, which I haven't, folks. But I receive news, and I have limited time to live, and it's severe. So how am I going to maintain any semblance of a happy life, knowing that my life could come to an end, or will come to an end in a case of this diagnosis? So how would I do that? I've contemplated this, because I've had friends and I've had family members who have died of cancer and heart things.
They knew it was coming, yeah.
And they knew it was coming, and they just had to take one day at a time, basically, and just try to live in that moment. Because in that moment, there is no war, unless a bomb is being blown on top of your head. In this moment here that I have in my own being, I have my connection to what life is, which for me is a spiritual experience. It's not just a political experience. I mean, if somebody really clung to life is all about politics, they're going to be pretty miserable, right now.
Anytime.
Because
there's always a fight going on with politics. If politics is all they got, they're going to be miserable. Period. Anytime, all during every age and every day.
But even if a person puts
better get beyond politics.
Excuse me, Carter.
Go ahead.
Even if a person puts a lot of importance on politics, rather than just saying, okay, I voted, I cast my vote, the people spoke, let it go, because we have an administration that's in charge, and that was the people, they spoke. We trust our system. I do. I've lived out of America, believe me, folks. This democracy works. So if somebody, not me, thinks too much about politics being the answer, then I'm going to be a very unhappy person, even with my deadly diagnosis, and most especially with political things that are based upon aggression and diplomacy and stuff like that, because that's all politics. So for me, the answer is to not give politics importance in my life. I mean, yes, they are happening, but it's not the center of my universe. The center of my universe is my connection to this moment here, which is where God resides, where the connection with universal consciousness resides, right here and right for this moment. I'm okay. I really am, as long as I stay in this now business. So that doesn't mean I'm in denial. That means I totally understand that there's an imminent situation going on, that bombs have been dropped, that ugliness is happening, that bad words are being spoken, even if it's in the same room as I am. But I can still maintain that connection with the divine within me, not out there somewhere, but within me. And that is the most important thing in my life. So that's how I get through bad times, and it's also how I, manage to get through good times. And that's been my go-to now.
You're pretty good at it. I'll give you credit. I've seen you in action under duress, and you're pretty damn good at that. So I salute you, and we'll accept that as the conversation.
Well,
I don't know if I've got anything particular to add to that.
Where are you at in that spectrum? Are you? We've talked about staying in the now a lot, but that's under ordinary circumstances. Yeah, we can talk about staying in the now. That's where you don't have the future or the past bugging you, and that's where happiness resides. But is it easy or is it hard to do when there's bombs being dropped around the world?
Well, I think there's a lot of different aspects to it, but one aspect is the moment that you're in at this particular moment, and in that case, there's a lot of praying going on. The people that are receiving on the receiving end and all that stuff, and if you're in a hole somewhere, or if you're, and it's the same if you're over here. Prayer is the prayer, and prayer is the thing that people retreat to, myself included, that we all retreat to, and unless we're close enough to the conflict so we could pick up a gun and go run out there and take our side if we want to do it that way, but we're not there. It's entitled. 1,000 miles away from here.
Well, so I think everybody is entitled to their opinion in this when there's conflict. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah, we need, more than ever, we need to respect our countrymen and our friends and let people, get their way through this in whatever way it is, and we don't have, nobody's got to be right.
But
you just have to get through
one of the
and
things,
hope for the best and have God in on it as much as possible.
One of the things I've been thinking of lately, because we talked about the shadow recently, like when hard times are happening, it's almost like we get pushed more and more and more into that shadowy place of darkness and despair and angst and fear and worry, all those not happy places. And I truly believe that the reason for being pushed into those places is so that we are forced to make a choice to go for the light, to go for the love, and to let go of the fear. I mean, I basically think it's part of evolutionary mechanics.
Well, how are you forced? What do you mean you're forced?
Well, we are all forced as citizens of the world to realize that we're on the verge of a really big conflict if it doesn't get resolved diplomatically. I hope to God it's not going to be, going into more bombs here and there, but diplomacy has got to be the way, because our weaponry is just so big these days. It's just too lethal. We can't have shoot 'em outs anymore. That's cowboy and Indian days. Those are over, right? We can't. We have to be higher in our resolution making. So I truly believe that in a time like now, where there is the conflict coming to a head, and it was precipitated by the Gaza, terrible annihilation that happened, and the Israeli-Arab situation, and it gets complicated. I don't even want to go there, but I mean, I lived in Israel. I know deep in my gut what is going on. So I don't need to go over the details. Everybody who wants to, they can research it. It's a very complicated situation. It goes back to Abraham and Sarah and Hagar. It goes back thousands of years. It doesn't, right? It does.
The whole thing is.
And so it will be resolved in time by people coming together with love and peace, but not with more bombs and more killing.
teZa thinks it's the girls that started it, and it's going to have to be the girls that end it. He says Sarah and Hagar got in a fight. Sarah kicked Hagar out, and the women are mad at each other, and that's what it's about. So that she thinks that when
Well,
this
you're
world
make-
conflict comes back
You
and
think
it gets
you're-
resolved,
you're
it's going to be
making
the
fun
women.
of-
I'm not making fun. I'm
Sounds
simplifying
like
it
it.
so people can understand what your position is, and it's an interesting one. I think you may not. You're just as right as anybody
It's
else.
symbolic.
The guys
It's-
aren't doing a very good job at it. We just keep killing and killing. Maybe if the women would take over, we could get this resolved.
It's symbolic. It did start with those two females, Sarah and Hagar. And my personal, it's an instinctual thing, also just thinking about it, and I've written about it. It feels like, women are becoming more accepted as world leaders, more accepted as equal partners. They don't just have to be stuck in the kitchen and making babies.
Well, they couldn't do much worse than we all been doing.
Right,
So
that's
what
for
the
sure.
hell? Why not give them a chance? And there's a lot of good female thinking and all kinds of stuff. Maybe you guys could just resolve this whole thing and get it done. That'd be great.
Well,
I'm certainly not against it.
I'm encouraged about the power of women coming into favor right now, being accepted more and more. And, it has not happened that we have a female president, but maybe one day it will.
Soon.
And we'll...
Oh, hell,
yeah,
it's imminent.
I hope so.
There's going to be plenty.
No, I'm not
They're
saying
all
that
over
that's the
place.
all-to answer. I mean, I don't know how the Arabs will look at it if they have a female president of the United States negotiating. Right now they probably need a tough set of balls, But women can have balls too. I mean,
Plenty.
I have balls.
Golda Meir's plenty strong, and so was Maggie Thatcher. You don't have to.
Yeah.
They got women. That's not the issue.
Well, I'm not trying
It's
to.
the frame. It's the thinking. Is
I'm
what
not
it
trying to
is.
make a joke out of this, folks.
Neither am I.
No, we're
not
talking very
joking.
seriously. We're not joking around here.
I mean, it's an interesting. What the hell? We haven't done so well, and the masculine attitude about stuff is to get puffed up, and oh yeah, you don't like that, and then somebody slaps someone in the face, and they say, "Great, let's go to war and fight it out." And maybe the women have got a better way of dealing with that. What the hell? What do we got to lose?
Well, life is filled with mysteries, and I wrote an essay this week, and I sent it off to the New York Times. I'm planning on then not accepting it because I have done this many times before, and they've never accepted it. But basically, it was, if we ever have a visit from another culture out there in the cosmos, which I have witnessed. And it's a reality. I have witnessed a fleet of spaceships. But if other people besides teZa Lord and her two friends who were out on the beach that night in 1967 or 68, I think it was, if other people realize that there's something much, 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 much bigger going on than just this puny little planet that's having conflict with each other, everybody would come together a lot more easily because they would realize there's something much bigger going on. But meanwhile, people love conflict. People love drama. I mean, in our little day, we love it. That's why we're all social media addicts and TV drama addicts. And the drama of life is very addictive. And then it's magnified in the political arena. It's just become a big soap opera, the way it's portrayed in the press and everything, and that's the reality. I mean, it is rather dramatic, and we get to know about every single blow. I mean, live feed, while it's happening. So there's something more in my life besides the drama of the day-to-day, and that's that still, small, little place inside that is so big. The whole universe fits in there. It's that connection with my breath, with the eternal of life. And that's where I go when I'm in conflict. And yes, I send prayers to either individuals or whole countries or a whole planet. I can send my prayers of energy, which I think is very helpful and very healing. And if everybody did it, things would change more rapidly. But I don't want to become a worrywart. I don't want to have, ulcers. So I don't concentrate on all those conflicts, and I don't get into all these arguments, all these, lambastings and the opinion making. I look at it from a distance, but I live my life I try to, as much as I can, from that center of peace. And it
That's a good place.
It is happiness.
Yeah.
Even in the
I agree with
midst
you.
of being threatened with my life, I do feel happy. I feel in
have you
touch.
been threatened with your life?
Well, it's an imminent thing with war. Yes, I've thought that the nuclear situation could just end my life any minute.
Yeah, well, it's still a long, far way away. I'm
No,
talking about somebody
that's
sticking
not-
a gun in
that's
your
not-
face.
Carter, I have had that situation happen to me in my life, and I know what it feels like. And in the last few days, I have. You can laugh about this,
I'm
but
not laughing.
I have thought about, okay, what if all of a sudden we're not here? I've thought about that.
Me too. I'm sure
And-
everybody listening has thought about that.
And
We've all thought about
and
it.
I'm not panicked about it.
Me neither.
If it's the end, it's the end.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, if I had a choice, yeah, I would pray for enlightenment for our leaders. Please, dear God, help the people who are in charge of this situation to be calm and to think with expanded, I don't know, compassion about the world rather than their own little problem, regional problem or religious problem or economic problem, whatever it is. So it is a very serious time. But even in the midst of all the seriousness, and knowing that, yes, I could lose my life, as we all could, if there is a certain type of bomb that's set off, but I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Well, you say you are now. And let's hope that you are when the time comes. And I suspect you will. Because we all think that. We all hope that. We all talk a good game when we're sitting on the couch. But when it's really going down and we're running through the woods, can we maintain? And I think you'll do well. And me too. I'm ready. You know?
Well,
if we're on the run, we'll just be on the run. And when we go down, that'll be the end of it.
Well,
What the hell?
I just feel like, hey man, it's life. It's like it's not eternity. My connection with life is my soul. My soul is going to be around forever. It'll be turning into a wisp of smoke or a butterfly or whatever. It'll be a speck of dust, whatever. My soul is eternal. But this body is pretty vulnerable. I mean, it could get crashed and killed in one instant.
Yeah, all of us.
Just being distracted
And it'll die away.
by the wrong listening of a text.
It'll die of its own accord anyway. No matter what happens, it'll die.
Yeah,
We're
but
dying. We're all dying.
The eternalness of our soul is the real essence for me. And so once I acknowledge that is true, happiness is quite, like simultaneous.
So
with
are you aware of
acknowledging.
your?
Why are you cutting me
soul?
off when I'm right in the middle
Are you
of the
aware
thought?
of your soul? It's a big thing. That's why I'm listening. It's an interesting subject you're bringing up.
Are you aware of your soul, Carter, all the time?
That's a great question. Am I aware of my soul? And I would say I think I'm not. I'm not sure I'm aware of my soul. I mean, I'm aware of my soul in some sort of a vague way, but I don't know if I can grab my soul and put my hands on it. It's floating around.
I don't think anybody can. I don't think you can dissect your body and find your soul. Like, it's under your eyelid. It's under the left cornea.
But
It's not.
Is it out there? Am I in tune with the cosmos? I think I am in some way, and I don't have any fear about. And I think it is eternal, and that we will go on. And this is just a step in one little. This is just one little part of our journey. This is just a small part of it. But it's a part. It's a big part. It's not a small part. It's an important part, because this is where we come to learn how to make choices, so that we can get closer to the true source and the real truth, and which is love, which is another vague subject and hard to get your hands on that.
Not
too.
vague at all for me.
Well, love is
a
big, huge thing.
Love
It's a lot of
is.
different kind of love.
Wait. Okay, stop.
You
right
go
there.
ahead.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
but when
it's
you
good.
say something like love is a vague, you're talking about love is like. It's got many, 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 many references. It's not like I love a cat or I love chocolate.
Yes.
Love is also a state of being, right?
Yeah.
It's not just an action where, okay, I love
think
that
that's right.
cat, so I'm going to, hey, pussy, 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 come here and love me up. No, that's one way of loving. Right. And then there's the other way of loving where you're sitting there looking at the cat and you're feeling love. You're in the state of connecting with that cat because that cat brings you joy and happiness and peace and all those other good things, comfort and beauty and purring and, needing sometimes. But love is not a vague subject. Love is very connected to the soul. I mean, to me, love is also consciousness. When I think of consciousness, I think of love. I don't think of fear, which is the opposite of love. I think of the breath, which we all have to be alive. So breath brings us in tune with consciousness. And for those of us who cherish being in a state of happiness as opposed to being in fear or angst or worry or confusion, we want to feel, as much as we can, that state of love rather than fear. So we do things to cultivate it. Some of us even choose a loving partner, like I have chosen you.
Thank you, baby.
And you have chosen me.
There you go.
And both of us have been with relationships where,
wasn't quite so good.
Wasn't quite so lovey-dovey.
What you're talking about, remember that, that movie with those creatures in it that we love, that kind of current
creatures.
Movie? Where they fly around in those islands out in the sky.
Avatar.
Avatar. Yes. You're talking about an Avatar type situation when you talk. That's what came to mind as you were discussing that you live in a state of thinking of others and kindness and love and being kind and not using all your humanness to demand your ego and all that stuff.
Well, I
that's
think
kind of the way the Avatar people are. They're like, and then they get attacked by the bad guys. And so they have to
unobtainium.
They have to have.
They were after unobtainium.
Yeah, the miners.
Wasn't that the name of it?
It's always the
mineral.
miners.
The mineral.
My dad was a miner. It's the people that are mineral people.
Your dad was a geologist.
Anyway,
and geologists, sometimes they go after copper and.
But you asked you brought up the subject is, can you feel your soul?
Yeah.
And it's a good question. It's a good thing to think about. And then you also said that love, which is part of that, becomes a way to feel the soul and be aware of the soul is through love. And I said love is complicated, and you says no.
No, you said vague.
It's vague.
It's vague.
I still think it's vague. Well, there's a lot to it.
I think you mean the definition of love is vague.
Well, we all talk about love and all that stuff, but when I talk about love, I'm not overwhelmed with love for anything in particular at the moment when I'm talking about love. Am I loved? Do I love the universe? Yeah, I do in some way, but it's not like I'm laying down crying about it.
Well, why would you? Why would you lay down?
You'd be so overwhelmed emotionally.
Oh, I don't think that's love. I think that's neurosis. That's like, over the top emotional pablum. Like what do they call that when people are like over the top sentimental? It's like it's
sappy.
It's sappy. It's like over the top. It's like people who take every time the camera's pointed at them, they have to show their pearly whites and flash.
That's me.
Peace signs and it's
like
they turn it on when the camera. Yeah, we're so happy. But inside they're thinking, oh man, just leave me alone. No, that subject of love is hey Carter, it's the subject of poets and writers and composers for eternal. I mean, it's a very deep subject.
It's a deep subject. There's no question.
But I do believe it is synonymous with what I experience as my soul.
That's great.
Because for me, I want to be comfortable. I want to be happy. I have been living in the dark in half of my life when I was addicted to all sorts of nasty things. I have been in recovery for 40 years. I choose to live in the state of love.
Yeah.
And it first starts with self-love. If you can't love yourself, so here we are talking about self-love, and we started off talking about bombs going off, but really it's all connected, because if we do have self-love, if we have nurtured respect and seeing that we are reflections of the divine, and have that same love for our own being as we would for the most beautiful specimen of whatever we're attracted to out there in life, well, then that's the opening door. That's the portal to seeing love everywhere. And it's not like we're going to love the fact that there's bombs being thrown around by crazy politicians and crazy countries.
It's the
Wait a minute, let me finish my thought. But in order to accept and not go crazy that it is happening, and to be in a state of anger and angst and all that, to not go there, one has to go into the opposite place, which is not fear. The opposite of fear is love.
Yes.
Every time I ask that question, you come blank.
So, no, I'm not blank. I'm just not to be led. But what I'm thinking while you're talking about that stuff is that the minute I get pissed off, or the minute I get angry, or the minute I become self-righteous or whatever, it gets in the way. Because if your soul is loving the universe, you feel in a state of bliss. It feels great. It's a good place to be. It's where I want to go as much as I can. It's happiness. That's happiness. And happiness is being in touch with God and loving everything. And so the minute you start hating stuff and being pissed off at people and having things that aren't going well and all this other fearful things, then you start feeling crappy, because it takes you away from that love. The more you the more you can have love and the less you can have that other stuff, the happier you'll be. It's
right.
Pretty simple. That's simple stuff.
Even
That's not
bad stuff, even murderous, torturous, warlike stuff. We're not just talking about, bliss is only for people who live in a cave, who don't have kids, who don't have, taxes, who don't have crazy presidents, and et cetera, and international conflict, all that. No, I myself, experience bliss as much as I can, because I want to be in that state. And so I've trained my thinking to accept what is going on that I have no control over. But of course I do vote, so I put my voice in there about who's going to lead our country, and then whoever won, I accept. I can't do anything about it in the middle of the raging tsunami of politics, right?
No, not a damn thing you can do about it, except, but no. And the more you try to do, the more unhappy your life can be. But you got to think, you got to try to understand what's going on. That's an instinct, and we all need to be aware of what's happening and try to have an opinion about it, and not necessarily kill yourself if it ain't going your way.
But that's not what this podcast
destroy
is
your
about.
life.
Our podcast is about the spiritual
By
life.
being angry.
There's plenty of other podcasts that talk about the ins and the outs, and it's so complicated. We know, because Carter has a good friend in the political realm, and we've known for many decades that what we think we know, we don't know. There's never a definitive...
Whatever it is they say it is, that ain't it.
Yeah, there's too
That's
many
the rule
complications
in Washington, D.C.
going on with politics. One never knows.
If it looks like something, it ain't that. That's the only truth. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. And so, during this time, what we can offer the people who are listening to us is the comfort of knowing that prayer is important.
Yeah, and it is right to stand up for what you think, whatever it is, and be in good faith and have strength to stand up for what you think. That's a good thing.
But without anger,
without
malice,
shoving it down somebody else's throat. Because I got my opinion too.
Without hatred.
Yeah.
And it's important for you to hold your opinions and do your due diligence with research about whatever nuances
and we're all
of
countrymen.
the conflict.
We're all countrymen together.
And and just stand up for what you believe, but try to stay in the state of acceptance, because if one allows oneself to get so filled with anger and confusion, then you are like making a choice to rock the boat, and you're not accepting what is.
You're setting yourself up for misery, because the guy standing next to you doesn't think the same thing you do.
Right.
The guy standing next to me, he's got a totally different opinion of it than I do.
So if somebody really embraces self-love, you want to be kind to yourself. You don't want to make your life miserable. You don't want to torture yourself. You don't want to feel so empathetic with people who are being bombed right now that you keep yourself in a state of misery. I mean, I know people who are like that. They feel, well, if somebody doesn't have food, well, then damn me for having food. I mean, I shouldn't be having this donut, right? They chastise themselves for having any pleasure, because there's other people out there who are suffering. But
there's a line.
I don't think that would serve either yourself or the people who are suffering.
A certain amount of empathy is good, but beyond a certain point it becomes neurotic, and none of us want to be in that.
But prayer is like a really beneficial practice, because prayer, it's not like it absolves you of all, guilt, but it makes you feel like you're participating in being helpful, because you're sending energy, even though it's invisible, even though you can't weigh it, and it's not like currency. It's psychic. You're sending psychic healing rays to wherever is needed.
Yeah, I think people understand that mostly.
Well, no, a lot of people don't. I mean, there have been scientific experiments proving that whatever the object of your prayers is, like, say, a sick plant. Everybody's praying for this sick plant. They've put electrodes onto this sick plant. They've done studies, and the plant responds to people sending their psychic energy. I mean, they've done lots of research.
My guess is that 80% of the people on the earth know that instinctively in their guts, that what they think and how they feel is powerful. And I'm not trying to be obstreperous. I'm just saying that I think that's it. So, but it's a good thought. It's like you say, reminding us. It doesn't hurt to remind us that it works.
It doesn't hurt to
and
repeat
that it does work. In our experience, when I feel really shitty, if I pray about it, I feel better. Mm-hmm. Happens all the time. It happens all the time.
Like, so, I got a daily reminder from one of the spiritual groups that Carter and I work with. I'm sorry, Carter.
What?
You're talking and I'm talking.
Okay.
One of us has to stop talking. Okay, so may I?
Sure.
Okay, so I was getting this reminder today from one of the spiritual groups that we work with, and it basically said, so simple, it says, every single question that you have the answer for within yourself. And that seems so simple, and it is true, but I am so grateful to be reminded about that.
Did that come over on that thing you sent me this morning from
I sent it from
the ARE?
Yes, from the ARE.
That's a great thought.
And it doesn't hurt to be reminded about really simple things, like love is the opposite of fear. That may sound sophomoric, but it is true, and it is so important. And fear is this big category, just like love is a big category. Fear is the basis of anger, revenge, envy, all those things, confusion. It's all come down to fear, because I'm not getting what I want. And love, even though you called it hard to define in its vagueness, it's not any more hard to define than its opposite, which is fear. Fear, you're either in a state of love or you're in a state of fear. It boils down to that. If you're somewhere in the middle, you're zoned out on Prozac or booze or something.
We're all somewhere in the middle. Every single one of us is somewhere in the middle of that.
That's not. I don't see how you can say that, because there are
everybody's got fear and everybody's got love.
Yeah, but some of us are consciously trying to not be in a state of fear.
Okay, well, that's good. You're helping us out. Thanks. Thanks for being an avatar. That's great. I appreciate it. But
Wait
but
a
you know,
minute.
every single
are you
human being
saying
on
that
earth has
if you
got
find
fear.
yourself
And
in anger, you're happy to stay there?
no, I'm glad to be reminded to
No,
get out of it, and
yeah.
I'm working on it all the time.
Right.
That's what I think we're doing here on this earth. Is
Yeah.
we've been born into these lives, and every day we have 400 or 500 choices to choose, and we try to get it right. That's what we're doing here. That's what the exercise is for all of us, and then we're going to die.
Right.
And then hopefully, and one of the keys is, for me, is I do better when I feel happier. So how is it that, what do I do to feel happier? Is there such a thing as simple as that? That's pretty simple. That's not like saying, oh, I want to be close to God. That's a little bit different. This is like simple happiness, which is a mundane thing everybody's chasing all the time. And I have found that I'm happiest when I pray a lot. And no matter what situation, I can be in a real shitty situation. And if I recognize it and I say, oh, I'm going to pray about them, and I say, pray that this gets better, it gets better. And so I'm here to say, as a witness, that it works. So, it may not work. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I'm just saying that I don't know how this subject came up, but it works.
Well, its subject came up because we're trying.
Tries to get close to the love.
We're talking specifically about how we can feel okay about life with the imminence of bombs going off all around us. We're talking about a very tense situation and how to deal with it. So I think we've offered some solace. And I just want to end with, I was walking with this lady the other day, and she's my age, and she's been having some problems with her thinking. Her thinking is bothering her. So she was asking me about what is the difference between prayer and meditation. And I said, and this is very well known also, but she, for some reason, had never heard it. And I said, prayer is talking to God, and meditation is listening. So for those of you who are wondering, both of those methods of connecting with the sacred are available to us, and they have different means of comfort. Like prayer, for instance, you can get real specific and even write it down, a request, or like get with words or with an image.
It's also action. It's taking action.
Well,
meditation is more receiving and listening, and
yes.
And they're both important. But taking action is good, because it means I want to know, I want to talk to
both
you.
Is good.
Prayer is just as good as meditation, but meditation is just listening to what God has to say. If you can get to the point where you can actually hear what He's telling you, that's the real place. But
right.
That's a hard place to get to. But we can all get there.
During a time of heightened fear, like now with a lot of people, it's probably more difficult to get to that place of that inner quiet than prayer. So prayer is a good thing to use when you're feeling disturbed or scared or worried.
Well, it brings happiness and comfort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we send our love to you, our dear friends. Until we talk to you next time, we're trying to be more regular about our offerings, and we send our love to each and every one of you.
All right.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Oh, in a minute.
In a minute.